Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Monday, December 21st, the Monday after the Sunday of NFL Week 15, and we are talking with professional sports handicapper Teddy Covers, based in Las Vegas, and we're going to do our regular call, looking back at Week 15 and discussing what we might have learned. Teddy Covers, looking back at the way the results played out, basically, you know, all the usual suspects for the public betting covered. All the good teams, all the great teams, the Pats, the Seahawks, the Packers, all covered. Arizona too, the Chiefs covered. And then all the kind of the terrible teams that you might think of as teams that you want to bet against, sort of tanking at the end of the regular season. Not tanking on purpose, just stinking it up, rather. The Dolphins, the Ravens, the Browns, the Niners, the Colts, the Titans, they all lost against the spread. So it was that kind of Sunday. Do you think that means that maybe we want to look for more of the same for the next 2 weeks? You expect those patterns to continue?
Not necessarily. I mean, look, the books took an absolute beating on Sunday. Here in Las Vegas, got quotes from several sportsbook directors that it was our worst NFL Sunday of the season. There were reports that the books in town lost $4 million yesterday alone on the NFL, which is a lot for Las Vegas on a single Sunday. And as you mentioned, all the public favorites covered. All the teams the public has been fading failed to cover. And the wise guys,
the Panthers is the only one that didn't.
Right, yeah, the Panthers saved a lot of books, or the Giants, I should say, saved a lot of books after they rallied 4 touchdowns down to cover the spread in that ball game. But it's certainly the type of day that doesn't happen every week in the NFL. And what you see, obviously, is the books adjust. And, you know, they took a ton of anti-49er money yesterday, for example. Cincy money came, San Fran money didn't. And what are we seeing this week? You know, we're seeing, I saw some look-ahead lines with the Lions laying 8.5 against San Francisco. So, you know, the Lions, the same Lion team that we were talking about in the Monday Night Football preview, as being, you know, a little bit of a dicey squad, laying more than a TD. So what will happen is the teams that fail to show, you know, or the teams that fail to cover, you know, Cleveland showed at Seattle yesterday. They didn't cover. But you're seeing that adjustment made where the week 16 point spread is higher than the look ahead line, and it's not because the Browns got worse, it's not because the Chiefs got better, et cetera, in these type of games. It's because the books have to adjust because of the beating that they took. So what happened yesterday, in my mind, not necessarily likely to repeat in week 16 and beyond.
All right, yeah, because I have 6 teams here that most people I'm sure have in the category of these teams suck. There's no way I could bring myself to bet on them. The Dolphins, the Ravens, the Browns, the Niners, the Colts, the Titans, they all lost against the spread. And I'm sure most people are wondering, should I keep betting against them with the next 2 weeks, or, you know, do we expect maybe a reversal? Because we did see with the Falcons, right? They finally got a cover. So I guess you're saying that going forward, you might expect at least 50-50 ATS from those 6 teams over the last 2 weeks.
I would. I mean, the teams that are very high on my fade list moving forward will be teams, let's say, like the Buffalo Bills that weren't on that list, you know, until they lost again yesterday. Or a team like the Dolphins. Did you include the Dolphins on the list?
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely. First on the list, Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, but they hadn't been in that category until yesterday's loss. I'm not convinced Miami's going to bounce back from another devastating defeat. You know, a lot of the teams that have fought, and now it's just the tail end of another disappointing campaign. Those are the squads that I tend to worry about a little bit more than the absolute bottom feeders who have been so bad for so long that the betting markets have already caught up.
All right, and then let me just ask you quickly about another team that isn't necessarily right now in that list of elite automatic public back teams is the Vikings. They did, though, get a big cover. Second straight ATS win. They stumbled a little bit a few weeks ago. Now they're 11-3 against the spread overall on the year. What do you think? Maybe good value with the Vikings going forward and into the playoffs once again?
You know, the Vikings, for me, are a mixed bag team. The quotes coming out of the locker room after that win over the Bears, very positive. And the game that Teddy Bridgewater played against Chicago is as good as I've seen him play at the NFL level. I mean, he was accurate with his long throws, and that's been a problem for Bridgewater. He ended up with, 4 touchdown passes in that game? That's a career high for him. If Bridgewater can play at that level, Minnesota's dangerous. but we haven't seen Bridgewater play at that level on any sort of a consistent basis. I'd like to see him do it 2-3 weeks in a row before we start calling the Vikings legit contenders in the NFC.
They are 11-3 ATS overall in the year, though. All right, an interesting week, Teddy Covers. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up that we didn't get to?
Well, let's talk about two teams from the worst two divisions in football that both went a long way towards clinching playoff spots yesterday. We saw the Texans with Brandon Weeden behind center in the second half, rallying against Indy. Of course, Brandon Weeden was the guy who was behind center, not the guy who won them the game.
Right.
And what won them the game was an extraordinarily defensive performance where they held Indy to 190 yards and kept them off the scoreboard in the second half and created 2 fourth-quarter turnovers that clinched the game. That Texans defense is pretty good, and maybe Houston, if they get Brian Hoyer back, there's a big difference between Hoyer and Weeden in my mind. If they get Brian Hoyer back, I think the Texans have the potential to be an undervalued commodity moving forward. And then we look at the NFC East, and if you read any of the comments from the Redskins out of that locker room, Jay Gruden has Washington actually liking each other. And this has been a bad locker room for years, with a bad locker room in the Spurrier era and a bad locker room. The Shanahan era was a bad locker room last year. Now, all of a sudden, the Redskins are talking with confidence, talking about what a special group of guys they are. Washington, too. I'm very surprised that we're seeing 3.5. So the Redskins at 3.5-point underdogs at Philly on Saturday. I do not expect those 3.5s to hold. I think we'll see some Washington money between now and kickoff.
All right. Well, sharp money. The Bills were reportedly one of the big sharp sides last week.
Big time.
I'm sorry?
I said yes, big time. They took a ton of money.
They lost. Another loser for the Sharps on the Buffalo Bills. Teddy Covers, thanks for your thoughts. As always, we will talk to you again next week for a look back at the upcoming week, NFL Week 16.
All right, thanks so much, Peter. Happy holidays to all of you
too,
out there
Teddy.
in viewerland.